Good morning. Shakama. Babu Ikeza.
Morning, sir.
Yes. Shakama wacheko ni wa network connectivity. So we were talking about gradient and the equation of a straight line for some almost 3 or 4 lessons the last previous lesson, and to have look at the review. Look at the review of what we have already covered.
Yes.
I'm using the red pen, mark pen.
Yeah.
Can you read? Huh? So let's look at the review of what we have so far, what we have covered. A review. So we began by looking at what we call the gradient. And we said that the gradient of a straight line is given by the change in y all over the change in x. And you talk about the change in y over the change in x, you must be knowing that if you're having a straight line a, x, y, and then b is also x, y, then we are labeling one of these x to be x1, this to be y1, and then this to be x2, this is y2. So when you take the differences between the y values, that is a change in y, all over the difference in the x values, that is a change in x, replicating what you call the gradient. We also looked at what you call the perpendicular lines. We also looked at what you call the perpendicular lines. Under perpendicular lines, we said if you're having two lines which are perpendicular, this line L1 and then this line L2, if two lines are intersecting at an angle of 90 degrees, then if you take the gradient of this line here, let's say it is M1, and then the gradient of this line to be M2. So the product of the two gradients will be giving us -1, i.e. the gradient of line 1, which is M1, we multiply by the gradient of line 2, which is M2, we'll be getting -1. That is what we talked about perpendicular lines. Apart from this, we also looked about the parallel lines. We also looked about the parallel lines, that if you're having two lines, like this line here, line L1, and then this one here, line L2, they are parallel to each other. So parallel lines are lines that will never intersect. And if we let the gradient of this line L1 to be M1, and this line L2 to be M2, then the gradient of the first line, which is M1, will be the same as the gradient of the second line, which is M2. So this one is the relationship for the parallel lines. That for the parallel lines, the gradient is the same. And my good friend, you must take note of the topic. The topic is called the gradient and the equation of a straight line. We also mentioned something about the midpoint. That now suppose you're having a line. Suppose you're having a line like this one here. Line A, B. And the coordinates of this point is given maybe 1, 4. The coordinate of this is given maybe it is 5, 6. And then you are told, can you get the coordinates of this line AB? Meaning, what is the mid here? The midpoint of this line AB. And we say that for us to get the midpoint will be given by x1 plus x2 we divide by 2, and then y1 plus y2 we also divide by 2, and then you enclose in the bracket so that you have in coordinate form. For example, if this is like the question I have just given you, that you have a point A whose x value is 1, so this x1, and the y value is 4 with this y1, and another point B whose x value is 5, which is now x2, and then a y value is 6, which is now y2. Then the midpoint is equals to x1, and our x1 is 1. So you have a 1, you add an x2, which is a 5, and then we'll divide by 2. So this is going to give us the x value. Then comma, you look for also y. So y1, this is 4. So you take a 4, and then you add a y2, which is a 6. And then again, you'll divide by 2. So you'll have a 1 plus 5, which is 6, divided by 2. You'll get a 3. And then you'll have a 4 plus 6, which is 10 divided by 2. You'll get a 5. So the midpoint of this line AB, this point here, the mid, this coordinate is 3, 35. So to get the midpoint of a line, you must identify the coordinates first. X1, XY. So you take the x values, 1 plus 5 divided by 2, because you want to get the mid of the value of x. And then 1 plus this y, again you divide by 2, because you also want to get the mid of the y value. So therefore the midpoint in terms of coordinate is 3, 5. That is why I think where we stopped in our previous lesson, and I gave you an assignment. Are we there? Wisdom?
Yes.
Wisdom?
Yes, sir.
Were you there in our last lesson? Did you attend the last lesson? Shakama?
Yes.
Have you attempted the assignment?
Yes.
Have you attempted the assignment?
No.
No. Ibe?
I've done.
Oh, I didn't attend the last lesson.
Or you were not in the last lesson?
Yes.
And those members who are not there in our previous lesson, you may get some things challenging, because remember the topic is gradient and the equation of a straight line. And we have known how to get the gradient. We have known the relationship between perpendicular lines. We have known the relationship between parallel lines. So we have known how to get a midpoint. So what we are remaining with is now how to get the equation of now a straight line. And you may get challenging, especially if you don't know how to get the gradient and you are asked to get the equation of a straight line. Because without knowing how to get the gradient, you cannot get the equation of a straight line. So I don't know how you are going to survive. Now, let us look at now what you call the equation of a straight line, being the last part of this topic, equation of a straight line. Students, so far, we have known how to get the gradient of a straight line. Now we want to get how to get the equation of a straight line. The equation of a straight line is the subtopic of discussion. Ibe,
Yes.
what's wrong with you?
Teacher, I'm not the one crying. She's my sister.
Umeamkia kuchuna watoto masikio?
No.
Equation of a straight line.
Play mother.
Equation of a straight line. Now that kid is making noise, eh? Yeah. So we want to look at the equation of a straight line. This is what we want to look at. And student, just write by saying that the general equation of a straight line, the general equation of a straight line, the general equation of a straight line is given in the form y is equals to mx plus c. The general equation of a straight line is given in the form y is equals to mx plus c, where m and c are constants, where m and c are constant, i.e. m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. And x and y are variables. X and y are variables, but m and c are constants. That the equation of a straight line is given of the form y equal to mx plus c. So this is just the general equation of a straight line. Just like the area of a circle is pi r squared. So no need of climbing this one here. When you're going to look at the equations, you'll get to understand what is this one here. And therefore, when we say m and c are constants, so all the equations, we are actually trying to get the constants. Otherwise, y and x are variables. These are the variables, meaning this one here cannot be substituted, because when you are plotting a graph of y from form 1, when you are looking at the topic called coordinates and graphs and coordinates, when you plot a graph of y against x, so that's why you're talking about x and y are variables, are the values that you are plotting for. So therefore, after plotting, you are able to get the gradient, and you are also able to get the y-intercept. So m is the gradient. But again, at least you know how to get the gradient from our previous lessons. C is the y-intercept. And this reminds me that I have also mentioned in the same topic, we have mentioned about the x and the y-intercept. And we say that when you talk about, if this one is a straight line, when you talk about the x-intercept, we are looking at where is the curve cutting the x-axis, or we are saying that we are looking at a point where y is equal to 0. So if this one is a straight line, then, and I ask you to get the x-intercept, kindly follow to the line and then go to the x-axis. Where is the curve cutting the x-axis? If it is cutting at this point at 4, then you will say the x-intercept is x is equals to 4. So this is the point when y is equal to 0. Then we also talked about the y-intercept. When we talk about the y-intercept, we are looking at a point where the line is going to cut the y-axis. So if it's cutting at the y-axis at this point, which is 10, then you will say your y is equals to 10. So therefore, y-intercept is a point when x is equal to 0. So at this point here, x is equal to 0. But at this point here, y is equal to 0. So you are asked to get the x-intercept. So you are asked to get the value of x when y is 0. You are asked to keep the y-intercept. You are told to keep the value of y when x is 0. So we have also done that. So when I mention about the gradient, it's not new. You know how to get the gradient. When I mention about the y-intercept, it's also not new. It's just a point where your line is cutting the y-axis, where your curve is cutting the y-axis. So we want to look at the examples of how to get the equations of straight lines. Let's look at an example. Example. Number 1. Find the equation of line AB given that A is 2, 4, B is 6, 10. Yeah. Find the equation of line AB given that A is 2, 4 and B is 6, 10. So therefore, student, before we get the equation of a straight line, we must be getting the gradient first. We must be getting the gradient. It's a must. So in our solution, let us get the gradient of line AB. So gradient is equals to the change in y all over the change in x. So if you call this one to be x1, this one is y1. You call this one to be x2, this is y2. So I want you to get the gradient of line AB, the change in y over the change in x. So like that is 10 y minus y, this is 4, all over the change in x. X2 is 6 minus x1, which is 2. What's the gradient? What's going to be the gradient?
Three over 2.
3 over 2.
Yes.
That is Kibe. I'm waiting to hear from other students. There is Nikki.
1.5. 1.5.
1.5. Now you have started just to maintain Kibe's answer, but now you used the decimal. Nikki. This student called Nikki. Nikki? Yes, I can see you have raised up your hand. Yes.
3 over 2.
3 over 2. Kindly give me what's your name?
Philip.
Yes?
Philip.
Philip, that's correct. There is a student by the name of Kilaria.
1.5.
1.5. Wisdom.
1.5.
There is another student by the name Howard.
1.5.
Yeah, 1.5. So you'll be getting 6 and you'll fight by 4. But still, no one is going to ask you to simplify, that you are going to use common sense to simplify. A 2 here is 2, a 2 here is 3. You will get a 3 over 2, which is 1.5, which is 1.5. Yeah, that's correct. So that's the gradient. Then we come back again. But the equation, it wants us to calculate the equation. But the student again will go back. How to get the gradient? The gradient is changing y over changing x. So therefore, if you have the gradient, which is now 3 out of 2, is equals to change in y. So you are going to use one of the points. Now, this is what you're going to use with. So suppose now we are going to use the gradient which is 3 out of 2. And then you're going to use one of the point between these 2 points here. Just use one. Let us use 2, 4. And then the second point, you create your own imaginary point. Now let the second point to be x1. Yes. So we are going to use our gradient that we have. One of the points which is known, and the second point, we let an imaginary point. And then we go back to the procedure of how to get a gradient. That the gradient, which is now 3 out of 2, is equals to change in y, the difference in y. So I take the y unknown, which is y, I subtract this y, which is 4. I divide by the x unknown, which is x, I subtract the x known here, which is 2. Yeah. So this one is an equation. So definitely because of the equal sign symbol, we are going to cross multiply. So you're going to do some cross multiplication. And when you cross multiply, you begin with a 2. So you're going to have a 2 into y minus 4, close the bracket, equal to a 3 by x minus 2. So equals 3 into x minus 2. So the remaining is the expansion, opening the bracket. When you open the bracket, you have a 2y minus 8 is equals to a 3x minus 6. A 2y minus 8 is equals to 3x minus 6. Let's collect the like terms. Let's collect the like terms. So a 2y remain on this side here is equal to a 3x minus 6, but this negative 8 moves on the other side. So that I have now plus 8. I'm having a 2y is equals to a 3x plus 2. Are we there up to this point, dear student? Are we there? Yes. So y will be equal to what? Y will be equal to, you will divide both sides by 2. Why don't you tell me what you're going to get y? Y is equal to what? Y will be equal to what? Yes, Yakama? Yes, you getting?
Come again.
Yeah. No. I have helped you to solve this question, and I'm up to this point here. We are at a point 2y is equals to 3x plus 2. So I want to remain with y on the left-hand side. So I will divide both sides by 2. Are we there? Yes. So when I divide this by 2, I divide by 2. What am I going to get? Y is equals to? Three over 2
3
or 1.5x, and then plus what?
plus 1.
Plus 1. Now, you people, you are behaving like that you need a calculator for you to divide 2 by 3. You need a calculator. You don't need a calculator, student. Now, do you remember the general equation of a straight line? And we say that it's in the form of what? Y is equals to mx plus 6. That's what we said. And if you are very keen, we say this m is the gradient. And you are very keen this line AB, when you calculate the gradient, tulipata gradient ilikuwa nini? 3 over 2. Na kwa hii equation unaona 3 over 2 imejitokea. So this is a gradient. It was a kind of an equation. Tukasema hii si ni y-intercept. That ukichora hii laini, hiyo laini tutakata y-axis at what point? So our y-intercept is 1. So from this equation here, you can say that actually the gradient is coming out, that the gradient is equals to 3 out of 2, or 1.5. And the y-intercept C is equals to 1. Yeah. that when you draw this line here, if you are supposed to draw, so we are not drawing, and you are drawing this line like this one here, the gradient of this line here will be 3 out of 2. The y-intercept, or the point where the line is going to cut the y-axis, is going to cut the y-axis at a point 1. That is the implication of this equation here. So our concern is that how to find the equation of a straight line. That for us to find the equation of a straight line, we need to have what you call the gradient. And if you have the gradient, you need to have one known point. And then you are going to let an imaginary or apparent second point. And then you go back to the procedure on how to find the gradient of a straight line. Let's look at example number 2. Example number 2. The gradient of line PQ, the gradient of line PQ is at that. The gradient of line PQ is at that. If the line PQ passes through, if the line PQ passes through a point, the line PQ passes through the point -2, 3. Yeah. The gradient of a line PQ is at that. If the line PQ passes through a point -2, 3, find the equation of line PQ. Find the equation of line PQ. Line PQ. Now for this one here, student, we said for us to get the equation of a straight line, we must be finding the gradient first. But this equation has been simplified. We have already been given the gradient of the line PQ, which is attached. But again, now we recall how to get the gradient. So solution, how to get the gradient? That gradient is equals to change in y all over the change in x. And the gradient here is given. The gradient is attached. So where there's a gradient, we are going to substitute with attached. So 1/3 is equals to what? The change in y all over the change in x. And for us to get the change in y over the change in x, we must be having 2 points. But this one here, that line PQ is only passing through one of the points, -2, 3. So that second point, we are going to let the second point to be xy. So therefore, 1/3 is equal to the y unknown minus the value of y here is 3, all over the x unknown minus the value of x here, which is -2. So we are going to have a 1/3 is equals to what? Y minus 3 with 5 by x minus -2, and it will become a positive. It will be x plus 2. It will be x plus 2. I want you to cross multiply and then get the equation. I want to cross multiply and then get the equation. Cross multiply and then get the equation. That is our question. Up to where I have stopped, we are only remaining to solve for 1 mark. So meaning the maximum time you can take is 1 minute. A question of 1 mark, you take more than 1 minute, then the question is communicating something.
Have gotten
Yes.
x/3 plus 11/3.
X/3.
plus 11/3.
Kibe, you have the answer, but I dislike how you are framing your answer.
Y is equals to x/3 plus 11/3.
We are looking for the equation. That equal sign must come out clearly. That now y is equals to x/3 plus 11/3, which is actually the same as y is equals just a 30x, 1/3x plus 11/3. It's just the same thing. Yeah. So that instance of the equation must come out through the equation of a straight line, not just x plus 3. So that is from Kibe. That's good. Babu Ikesa, leo umeamua tu, you don't want to talk. What are you getting? Wangoi. Wangoi, the late comer. We're just coming in class when we remain some few minutes to end up the class. I'm waiting to at least one or two of you to justify the answer. Philip? Shakama, yes. Ilaria, you can see you have raised up the hand. Or that is Philip. Yes, Philip, what's the answer?
1/3x plus 3/3.
I want you to have some mathematics discipline in you and then just read what is required. Yes, have some discipline in maths. Don't just say 1/3x. It's an equation. So
Y is equals to
Okay.
1/3x.
Y is equals to 1/3x plus
3/3.
2/3,
3/3.
3/3.
Yeah.
Meaning in the improper fraction, this is the same as what? 12/3.
7/3.
12 or 11?
Huh?
11 or 12/3? Hey. That's it. You have 3y minus 9 is equals to x plus 2. 3y is equals to x plus 2 plus 9. 3y is equals to x plus 11. So y is equals to a 30x plus 11/3. So we do simplify. So y is equals to a 30x plus going to 3, that is 9. 9/2/3. So it is 3/2/3. Out here. Yes. So that is one of the second example. Example number 3. Example number 3.
Yeah, please repeat.
Yes, Wisdom.
Please repeat.
That's example number 2.
Yes.
Yes. The question is reading. Let's read the question. Yes. That we are given the gradient. We are given the gradient of line PQ. So the gradient of line PQ is 1/3.
The line PQ passes through the
and we're having the points, the line PQ is passing. The line PQ is passing through the points. One of the points is what? -2, 3. And the second point, we are going to let our imaginary point. So the second point is XY. Are we there, Wisdom?
Yes.
And now the question is that how to get the equation. The equation is simply coupled to the formula of getting the gradient. And the gradient is equals to change in Y all over the change in X. And our gradient is given this 1/3. So 1/3 is equals to change in Y. Change is the difference between the Y values. So when I take this Y, I subtract this Y. So Y -3. I divide by the change in X. This is X, I minus this X, which is -2. So I'm taking X, I'm subtracting a negative. So when I do the evaluation, you'll get now a third is equals to Y/3, but X minus -2. Are we in agreement that you're going to get X plus 2?
Yes.
Now, from here, I'm doing cross multiplication. I'm having 3 into this one here, into Y -3 is equal to 1. It's equals to 1. We also cross multiply 1 with this other point. It's equals to 1 into X plus 2. So the remaining is opening up a bracket. I'll have a 3Y minus 9 is equals to X plus 2. So I have a 3Y is equals to X plus 2. I move this -9 on the other side, so it becomes +9. Are we there?
Yes.
So that I'm having now a 3Y is equals to X, then 2 plus 9, I'll get 11. Then I divide both sides by 3. Why? Because, student, the question of a straight line, the general equation of a straight line is Y is equals to mx plus c. This means that as you are writing your equation, you only keep Y on your left-hand side. So that I only want to remain with Y on this left-hand side. So meaning I remove this 3. And removing this does only mean that you take a wrap and then you erase this 3. Mathematically, you divide by 3 on both sides now. So 3 cancels, so that you remain with Y now is equals to X/3, which is the same as a 30X. Then plus 11/3. When you simplify 11/3, you'll be getting a 3 and then 2/3. Are we there?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what we have. So kindly, when we meet in our next lesson, we are going to look at what we call trigonometric ratios. 1 as this another topic. Are we together?
Yes.
So meanwhile, interact with more
Yes.
questions. Yes.
Yes.